Okay, let's get to the meat of the course. Our first presenter is Dr. Cindra Kamphoff. She's so amazing. Not only is she a professor, an author, and a speaker, but she's a coach, and her impact on athletes is undeniable. Just take Adam Thielen, who she'll tell you a little bit more about, but if you read the foreword he wrote for her book, he worked with her for a long time and still works with her with the Vikings, and what he does is amazing on his own, but he certainly has a great respect for Dr. Cindra, and she's great because she understands the complexities of sports performance, and she's fantastic at the same time at presenting the needed valuable information in a way that's simple. It's memorable the way she presents it, and it's easy to understand. So, it kind of reminds me of Harvey Dorfman. Harvey was my mentor, and he passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. But if you're a baseball or softball player, I really recommend you go check out his books, The Mental Game of Baseball or The Mental ABCs of Pitching, or any of his books. H.A. Dorfman, I think is how he's listed. I'll put a link up. Cindra reminds me of Harvey because when you spend time with them, when you listen to them speak, you always find something that is illuminating, something that you know is going to make you better at life. And life is so much better when you're good at it. I once asked Harvey, of all the things you talk to these professional athletes about, is there one that's most impactful? And I was surprised that he actually answered the question. It was the type of question that I thought he would kind of skirt or have some long-winded answer for. And he said, it's self-talk. The way you coach yourself is critical for performance. And that's what Cindra gets into in this video. And throughout the course, we're going to be trying to talk to you about, are you coaching yourself in the way that if someone else was coaching you that way, you'd be like, yeah, that's a really good coach. They're helping me. They're pushing me. They're finding the right buttons at the right times. Dr. Cindra's got some great strategies for that. And then there's more stuff in the quiz. One of the things in the quizzes we're going to ask you is to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 of how good you are at talking to yourself with dignity and respect. Because it's not just the words you choose. That's part of it. But it's the way you say them as well. And I've run across quite a high number of athletes in my time that their DNR, their dignity and respect number, especially after they made a mistake, was not very high. And if they were evaluating somebody else coaching them in the way that they're coaching themselves, they wouldn't think a lot of that coach. And since you're the most important coach you'll ever have, you might want to work on raising that dignity and respect number. Now, you can't do that without awareness. And you've probably never been asked before, what's your dignity and respect number? So we're going to ask you, we're going to remind you in the output file at the end of the course. But that was a line from Harvey. Without awareness, no adjustment is possible. And over the past 25 years, I've found it to be incredibly true. We want to be honest with ourselves. Awareness and honesty are synonyms. We want to see reality accurately so that we can make great adjustments. Once we have that awareness, it's no guarantee that we're going to make improvements, but it puts us in position. With awareness, an adjustment is now possible. When we can identify self-talk that's not as good as it could be, in the sports psych textbooks that I grew up with, they had a nice way of categorizing these adjustments in 3 ways. Now, we're going to have negative thoughts. We want to deal in reality. We're not going to be able to avoid all distractions. But we don't want to stay stuck in what we know is not useful thinking. The 3 categories of changing that non-productive self-talk that I wanted to cover is countering, reframing, and thought stoppage. Countering is great to try first because if it works, you're good. Countering is asking yourself, is that even true? That thought. For example, if you make a mistake and you say, oh, I stink, it's not actually true. You just stunk on that one repetition. It happens, you're human. And so if you remind yourself of the truth rather than the false that you kept saying to yourself, now you can move past it and get back to what's important now. The first one, countering, is identifying the thought as false and reminding yourself of what the truth is. The second one is reframing. If you try to check, is it false, and you find out, no, it's true, but I know it's not a very good way to look at it, then maybe you can look at it from a different way. If you're thirsty and you've got a glass that's, well, is it half full or is it half empty? It's both. And it's not wrong to say it's half empty, but if you want to be more positive about it, then you'd certainly say it's half full. You can do this many times. Is it terrible that you made a mistake, or is it good because you can learn from it? Is it terrible that life's not fair, or is it good because you get to practice dealing with it? Look, everything, just about, if it doesn't kill you, okay, so that was Harvey's line too. If it doesn't kill you, it makes you better. And he meant literally. If you get run over by a truck and die, then there's nothing good about that. But even something like a broken leg, I'm not saying it's good, it is bad, but it's also good. And you may not be able to even figure out why that is in the moment, but if you look back on it a year later, it taught you the importance of rehab, the discipline of that, and also motivated you to do prehab, to stretch and do the things you can do to prevent the injury. It taught you while you were out to appreciate being in there. Isn't it great when you're finally full speed again with confidence and you can do what you want to do on the field or on the track or in the pool, wherever you are? It's great because while you're out, you might have more of a coach's or a leader's perspective, and you might see the game from a little different angle and learn stuff. There's all sorts of reasons, and they're hard to see in the moment when you're in pain and you're pissed off because you're going to miss some time. I'm not saying don't be upset, the bad stuff's not bad, but there's almost always, once we practice this, it's almost possible to find a way to reframe the thought that's true and look at it from a different angle, a more positive angle. It was Stephen Covey in The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People who said, between stimulus and response is a space, and in that space lies your power to choose, and in your choices lie your growth and your happiness. Now, if you can pause the video and repeat that sentence, I'll be impressed. It's a mouthful, so let me break it down. Between stimulus and response, between something happening and you responding to it happening, there's a space. And in that space lies your personal power, your power to choose your response. Sometimes it doesn't seem like that because we have this automatic negative thought. We have this automatic response, oh my gosh, is this umpire, is this referee serious? We automatically go to that. But once we practice using the space to respond in the most useful way, maybe not the most logical, maybe certainly not the most common, but then we're responding in a way that's going to maximize our growth and our happiness, or our rate of learning and our rate of winning, you might say in sports. Okay, so we have the power to choose our response, and reframing is often a huge part of that. Now, if you try to say, is it true? Yes. Can I look at this from a different perspective? I can't figure it out right now. Then, can't's a bad word, but if you put the right now on it, it's okay. Then you can just go to thought stoppage. And that means, okay, I know that's not good for me to think about right now. What I want to think about is what's important now. And the cool thing about that is that those 3 words, what's important now, starts with the 3 letters, W.I.N. When you start to worry about, are we going to win? Bring it back to the way to win, which is to focus on what's important now. In fact, that's so important that we're going to come back to that point over and over in this course. Dr. Cindra is, and I think every other instructor in some way comes back to that idea of focusing on what's important now. You know, the path of mastery, I mentioned it before, this pursuit of how to coach yourself, how to train, how to act in a way that's going to maximize your chances for winning, it's really a luxury. It means you don't have to go out on the farm and bale hay all day. And it's something that I find a lot of athletes don't realize they're even doing. Mastery is not a definition. You don't have to get older to be a master and be the best in the world, because the ones who are the best in the world realize this is not a place where I've arrived. This is something that I'm continuing to pursue. They're humble, they're pursuing learning, Michael Jordan said, my roots keep getting deeper. And that's after he's the best player in the world already. Mastery is not a destination, it's a journey. And if you get the opportunity to pursue the question, how good can you be at your craft? That's wonderful. I hope you appreciate it, and I hope you challenge yourself to answer that question every day. Dr. Cindra is going to talk about that. I'm not trying to steal her thunder. I just want you to be clear on some of these concepts that you're going to get over and over. Another one, last one, and then we'll get to her, is act as if you already are the way you want to be. The reason I bring it up here is because when she gets to it, she doesn't spend a lot of time on it. When other instructors in the course, they get to this idea of act as if you already are the way you want to be. How do you do that? By good thoughts and good body language. If you want to be tough and focused, well, how does a tough and focused athlete look? How do they think? If you're in Hollywood and you're acting, you've got to get yourself in character by having the body language, the posture, the breathing pattern, the behavior of a person who you're playing. I'm not a fan of fake it till you make it because I don't think you can lie to yourself. But I am a huge fan of act as if, because if you get your thoughts and your body language to be as if they would be if you were already the way you want to be, you're going to find that you are that way surprisingly soon. Okay, let's get to Dr. Cindra Kamphoff teaching the practices of high performers as she picks the most impactful strategies she uses to work with great athletes.